Well, when you think about going into genetics research, I think there's some hard questions you need to start asking yourself. Like, is something right or is it wrong?
And how far should you go with genetics research?
Well, one thing I would think about is how a procedure like genotyping, could be used in the future. Say if through genotyping we could find that someone has a high risk of stroke. What would happen? Well, it may be good because then people could watch their blood pressure and do other things to avoid having a stroke.
But what happens if the people that you work for find out that you have a certain gene that makes you at high risk for certain diseases? I mean, would they hire people like you?
Or could insurance companies use information about genetic risk to help set the price or to deny insurance to some people?
Well, I think that finding out what diseases might run in your family and whether you're affected by them and maybe even avoid dying at a younger age outweighs everything else. I don't think that it'd be worth stopping what researchers are finding out through genotyping.
I think it's important, though, to think about what could happen with this information and have some laws in place that would make it impossible for employers and insurance companies to use this information against people.
Well, what about using animals for research?
Well, I've thought about it some more, especially since I've been doing my internship in the lab. I've heard different opinions about using animals. Have you heard much?
Well, I've heard a lot in the news and on the internet about animal rights activists, and they're against any kind of medical research on animals. But personally, I think you have to use animals like mice to, do research that could save people's lives. I just don't think there are any other choices right now.
Maybe they're thinking that the animals are being mistreated.
I think I've heard about some experiments where animals weren't given anesthesia and suffered during the experiment. I wouldn't want to think any animals were suffering for us, even if it is supposed to benefit people.
I heard in science class that a while back there were people trying to get more protection for animals in research by asking Congress. Now there are strict rules for doing animal research.
But still, there are some animal rights activists that are against using any animals in research. Sometimes they go into the labs and sabotage them and destroy the experiments.
I think it's good that we talk about it and make sure animals are protected. But I don't like the way activists who are against medical research are handling it.
Well, when I think of animal research, I think of all the discoveries that were made using animals, like smallpox and polio vaccine and prevention of other diseases.
And there are other benefits, like testing new surgical techniques or testing drugs or the treatment for diseases like cancer.
I don't think it's a matter of scientists saying they don't care about the animals they use. I think they respect animals and want to make sure they're treated well.
But I'm still not sure about how I feel about all of this. I think I still need more information about what's in the guidelines and the steps that the scientists need to follow while working with the animals. It's just not an easy problem to solve.
You know, that's not a bad idea for all of us. Maybe we should do a little research on our own and find some more information. We can all take a different part to look into and come back with recommendations about how to approach or carry out genotyping in animal research. What do you think?
Despite all the excitement with stem cell research, it also has been the source of much controversy. As an ethicist, I look at value judgments in society and standards of conduct. For example, I ask questions like, what effect will this development have on a community? Or what principles can we use to develop standards of conduct for a particular activity? Hospitals and research centers hire ethicists to help them make difficult decisions. They believe that sound value judgments and sound standards of conduct are important in healthcare and in biomedical research. In looking at human embryonic stem cell research, there are some ethical issues that we need to resolve. It's a great balancing act. There's the issue of whether the destruction of human life or potential human life, that is, the embryo, is justified by the significant health benefits that research with embryonic stem cells may hold for humanity. Embryonic stem cells have the ability to develop into any type of tissue, from bone and muscle to skin and blood and nerve. And this means they may hold great potential for treating diseases like diabetes, as well as repairing damaged nerves and organs, like the heart. So the question is, should we use human embryos to help others live healthier and more productive lives? Is the use of these embryos left over from in vitro fertilization morally justified?
Well, for me, it's hard not to think of the benefits of stem cell therapy. Mainly because my grandfather has Parkinson's disease. And I see what it's been doing to him, man. I mean, he can't walk now. His speech is difficult to understand. And he's just been deteriorating more and more day by day. And he's been going at this for years. That's why I say it makes sense to come up with the best treatment for people like him.
I can see why you feel that way because it has to do with your grandfather and everything. But I find it hard to believe that human embryos, which could develop into a human baby, should be destroyed. I believe that life begins at conception, and I think it's wrong to take that life.
Even if you help people who have cancer, diabetes, or heart disease?
This is pretty big. There isn't anything else that they've found that could replace damaged tissues or organs like the embryonic stem cell. I'm pretty sure, too, that these aren't embryos that are going to be used. So should these be thrown away and not used when they could actually help a living human being that has a really bad disease?
But do we really need to use those stem cells?
And what about getting stem cells from older people or someplace else?
I think I heard something about Congress trying to pass a bill that would give more money to research that uses stem cells from umbilical cords.
Yeah, it seems like everyone would be okay with that.
But there's still a limit to what those stem cells can do. I think the government is really slowing down research right now because the funding hasn't been decided on. Other countries are allowing more research on stem cells. If scientists had the money from the federal government, they could move a lot faster.
But I thought the government was giving money to this research.
Well, the president has said that the federal government will give money for the uses of human embryonic stem cell lines. But he said he only do that if the cells existed when he made his decision in 2001. He said he doesn't want to see the destruction of any more human embryos.
I'm still not convinced that we should use stem cells that come from destroying human embryos. I think that scientists need to try to find new ways to obtain stem cells from other sources that will work just as well.
But if we wait and hope that something else will come along, we will have lost years and years of research that won't get beyond just testing.
It's important to talk about the issues, but it needs to keep going with the research.
There isn't time to waste and just sit back.
I don't think I can say scientists should use embryonic stem cells for sure. I think I need to find more out, like how the scientists got to where they are today and what kind of breakthroughs they made before they finally decided on using embryonic stem cells. And I'd like to talk it over with my mom and dad. They both are interested in my internship and genetics, and I bet they can give me more insight.
I think we have a lot to think about before things are really worked out.